Twirl's first question was, sometimes I get a vibe about a card wildly different from its meaning. What do you do when your gut clashes with your knowledge? I go with my gut. I go with my gut every single freaking time. You know why? Because when I do, I give and receive for myself the most incredible readings every single freaking time. So let's talk about this in practice. In fact, it's one of the things that I think is the most cool about the tarot. So the only time when I will maybe slow my roll on this is if I have a personal opinion that I think is interfering with my interpretation. So I'm reading for somebody and I think their boyfriend's a dirtbag, right? And the card I pull is the Lovers. And I'm convinced that means this person needs to walk away. I might need to second guess myself a little bit and ask if that's my personal opinion projecting into the reading or if that's gut. But outside of that scenario, right? If you pull a card for somebody, and here I have the Empress, and as soon as I pull this card, something about looking at this card or what was happening intuitively for me in that moment, what I'm feeling is that this person needs to, what's a good example? I've had it happen where like I'm looking at a card and suddenly I'm imagining dandelions or something, right? And I might say, when that happens, I try really hard to say it as soon as it happens, to say it out loud. Hey, for whatever reason, and maybe this is nothing, but I just got this really strong image of dandelions. Does that mean anything to you? Or maybe I pull a card and here we have the Eight of Pentacles. And I'm like, I think your life's kind of a mess right now, actually. You know, and I don't have a problem admitting like, hey, typically the Eight of Pentacles is actually about order and being a little bit perfectionist and doing the same thing and getting a result. But for whatever reason, when I pulled this card for you today, what I really felt was like that things are just a mess right now, that they're just in absolute chaos and you're not feeling like anything is perfected and you don't feel like you've got a groove about anything. I will say it every single time. And it's hard to do that because it really pokes at imposter syndrome. It really pokes at and asks you to trust yourself. It really can be uncomfortable because you're like, oh my God, this person's going to think I'm a crackpot. And it's especially hard if you're doing this when you're reading for somebody who you know knows tarot, which is why I will often give myself permission to say, hey, this card usually means this, just so you know. But for whatever reason, this is what's really jumping out at me right now. And this is what I'm getting from this. And I always give my anybody I'm reading for permission, like, to interpret the card or to interpret from whatever I say based on their own intuition. I always remind them, like, you know yourself better than I can. So take what resonates. Like, if this doesn't sound resonant, it doesn't have to be. I'm not going to be 100% right about everything. So take what works for you and don't worry about it otherwise. Yeah, Twirl says, I recently saw Danny read the Five of Swords as lashing out from a place of fear. I've never seen the card like that, but it was bang on for the reading. Exactly. And Danny and I have had this conversation a lot because she and I read similarly in that way. We have no problem. If we see something different in a card, we have no problem saying it. For me, it took a long time to get comfortable saying it. But as you practice doing it, I have gotten so much validation from clients where I just get something really random, I share it, and it turns out to be like exactly what they needed or to be especially like personally meaningful to them in some way. And so because of that, I don't stop myself now and I don't worry if it sounds dumb. I really don't. I'm like, and I'll say it. I'll say, hey, this might sound really wild and crazy, but here's what I'm getting from this. Take it or leave it. But like, that's what I get. Let's do Magic and Mayhem's question. Absolutely. You can ask a second question. Okay. So sometimes a card shows up that doesn't seem to fit the question at all. Magic, if you are still here, let me know if you feel like your question was answered with the prior answer, or do any of you feel like there's some nuance here that we should dive into that's a little different? Oh, can I give a majors example for this? Sure. Okay, so let's just pull our first, somebody ask a question, any question, and we'll pull a major. And the first major that feels like it shouldn't fit is the one we'll do. That's how we'll do that. Okay, first question that showed up is vibes on starting a new job. Okay, so the first card that feels like it shouldn't be able to answer the question that's a major is the one we're going to do. So I got the star, vibes on starting a new job. Okay, well, that feels kind of appropriate because it's like, oh, it's positive, it's hopeful. Yay, wishes fulfilled, looks great. High Priestess. Well, this is actually a difficult one because you just asked about the vibes on starting a new job and then you get a card all about listening to your intuition. Doesn't that feel a little redundant and awkward and like weird? So in this case, we've pulled the high priestess, and what we're trying to find out about is the new job. And this feels like it's answering a question with a question, kind of like it's not giving us a clear answer. It's like, well, if the high priestess is about listening to your intuition and trusting your gut, and the whole reason we're asking the question is to figure out what our gut might be telling us about this new job, like what's the vibe, like what's the energy, then this is like annoying, right? So I'll tell you what I would do in this situation. I could sit here and try to make it work. Let me give my own advice. Hold on, let me take my own advice. We're going to sit with some discomfort for a second. Okay, we're uncomfortable because we feel like it's answering the question with a question. So sitting with that discomfort. What else does the high priestess tell us? So we know that the high priestess is connected to her intuition. We also know that there's some mystery and there's some unknowns. She has some secrets. And so, again, I'm going to sit with the discomfort for a minute because I feel like this isn't answering the question, but it probably still has something for me. So I'm going to sit with it. So I'm going to go with it like this. The vibe right now is that I'm uncomfortable. This is, trust me, this is going to make sense. Okay. I'm uncomfortable because when you start a new job, there's everything you don't know. And you don't even know what you don't know, which means you don't always even know the right question to ask. When you're a newbie at a new job, you're going in knowing you're not going to know anything. And there's a discomfort with the unknown. And the high priestess is holding this information close to her and is like, you're not going to be able to get this information super easy, right? This is secretive. There's secretive information. So you're going to need to trust the process to a degree. So I'm going to sit with this card and make myself sit with the discomfort of feeling like it's not answering my question. And I'm going to do that. And so we're first sitting with it. We're going to make ourselves sit with it, because I think when you do that, you can learn what the card has to tell you, even when you feel like it's not answering the question. Then after you've done that, and only after you've done that, then you're going to ask the question. You're going to ask a follow-up question. So you're not going to just like re-ask the question and draw another card. You're going to ask a follow-up question. Okay, obviously I'm uncomfortable because there's things I don't know. So what should I focus on to walk into the job with more confidence? That's what I'm going to ask now, because now I know I'm feeling not confident. I've got imposter syndrome. I'm nervous about all the things I don't know. And I'm going to pull, and I pulled the Empress, another major. How can I give my, like, how can I come into the job with more confidence? The Empress is somebody who is able to grow something out of nothing in a lot of ways, right? She's a nurturer. She's creative. Remind myself that I have the ability to come up with creative solutions to just about any problem. I can lean on my own recognition that I know how to nurture a project. I know how to grow something from small to big, you know, and with that skill, I can apply that to a new job, right? I know how to take starter skills and build them into like more longer lasting skills, you know? So that's kind of, hopefully, I don't know if that actually answered the question, but hopefully it does. So Magic in the Mayhem, I hope that was helpful. I know it was more of a follow-up to the last one, but I hope that it was helpful.